Are you wanting to lose weight and wondering how to lose more than 50 pounds in a year? I'm going to walk you through my cutting experience in 2024, where I lost more than 50 pounds over the course of 310 days. I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, and some regrets that I have so that you can harp on those and have a more overall efficient experience. Before I give you any details into how my cut went and some tips and pointers for yourself, I want to give you a quick background into how I got into this spot in the first place. Flashback in about 2 years ago when I had appendix surgery. This is when I was out knocking doors in the summertime. Pretty much wasn't lifting at all at that point, was instructed not to lift anything more than 5 pounds. So of course with that, I'm going to be losing a bunch of my muscle and gains and progress up to that point. I also wasn't eating the best because with the mentality of, oh, I'm just going to be sitting around all the time anyway, ended up not eating the best either. After that, I started studying for the dental admission test, which is just a test in order for me to get into dental school, which I'm at right now. That took up a lot of my time, wasn't lifting a lot during that period either. Right after that, I went into knocking doors again out in St. Louis. Wasn't really working out or eating the best there. So after that, about around October of 2023 is when I started lifting seriously again, where I committed to just going to the gym all the time and taking care of myself and just eating better. And from that point, I was like, you know what? I kind of have this weird skinny fat look going on, built like a bag of milk. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bulk from here. It's like, you know what? I need to build that foundation again. So I decided to bulk pretty much like anybody would. But the mistake I made was I took the bulk a little bit too far. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily a dirty bulk. I just ate too much good food, which you can do. If you eat too much spinach, you will gain weight. I started at around 185 pounds last October, and I bulked all the way up until February of this year, and I got to around 235, 240 pounds. I'll put a couple pictures up on the screen. Got to around that body weight, and at that point I was like, well, it's definitely necessary that I need to do some form of a cut, whether it's a mini cut or I do just a long form cut. I've never really gotten super lean. I've cut before while in this whole lifting phase in undergrad and stuff, but I've never really gotten super lean where I was as lean as I was prior to working out when I was in high school. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to commit all of 2024 to cutting and trying to get as lean as I can, because I've never done it before. I've never gotten that lean. I've definitely done cuts where they were 8 to 12 weeks long, but never something that was prolonged to where I have to commit to it to pretty much at least half the year, if not more. That is a bit of a background on how I got to where I'm at now. I'm down to 183 pounds. I'll put a picture up of exactly what I look like just from 1 or 2 days ago. I took some pictures compared to what I was 10 months ago, and the transformation is just insane. I mean, 50 pounds can completely alter somebody's look and their composition and how they feel in their skin. So we'll go through some of the pros and cons and things that I regret that you can take advantage of. Talking about regrets, my first regret that I make when doing my cut is that I went too hard out of the gates with doing dedicated cardio. Now, if your goal is to get the best cardiovascular health, which should be a top priority for a lot of people, and I'm glad that's something that I prioritized on this cut, which is focusing on the most important muscle in our body, which is our heart. But I came just out of the floodgates way too hard with doing the dedicated cardio, where I would bike for 30 to 45 minutes every single day, but I wouldn't hit my step count. And when you're starting with your cut, when you weigh 240 pounds, when your body fat is probably 25% body fat, you should just focus on getting your steps in. Walk 10 to 12K steps a day, and the body fat's just going to melt right off. There's no reason to just go so hard in the paint right off the rip and bike for 30, 45 minutes a day, and your legs are sore every single day, and it's affecting your ability to recover, and you feel like you're overtraining because on your leg days you're not able to do as well because you're biking so much every single day, where it's like, you don't have to do it every single day. I could have biked for 3 days a week, but if I got my steps in, I would have gotten just as good as results, but I would have recovered way better, and I feel that I would have progressed along at the same exact pace, losing body fat wise and getting leaner, if I would have just done that right off the start. So when you're starting your cut, I would advise to just focus on getting your steps in. If you have a fitness wearable like a Whoop, if you can just download the Steps app on your phone, whatever it's going to take in order for you to be able to track your steps and keep you accountable and keep you consistent every single day with doing that, I would focus on doing that. Now, of course, when you're getting leaner down, you're already going to be getting in better health overall and better cardiovascular health. But if you want to step that up a notch, definitely incorporate some form of dedicated cardio. That's going to be a must. That's going to be a requirement as you get later and deeper into your cut in order for you to be in that calorie deficit. But is it necessary when you start off? Absolutely not. The next regret that I have is not tapering my calories more than I did. I believe I started at around 2,700 my cut, where my maintenance calories are anywhere between 2,800 to 3,100 calories. If you're wondering how I know that, I just use a calorie calculator on the internet, maintenance calorie calculator, or just some random formula. But this video is not about that, but I'm somewhere between that ranges depending on how active I am. And I didn't have to be so hesitant with starting right there at my maintenance. I could have been at 2,500 or 2,400 calories and not be so hesitant. I could have been a little bit more aggressive, and that would have kickstarted the fat loss rather than starting up there and being so minimal and gradual with it. I definitely could have started a little bit lower, and I would have been speeding up the process with my fat loss, and I wouldn't have taken so long with doing so. Two more minor regrets that I have before we move on to the pros and cons is the first one is not prioritizing my sleep as the number one priority in my life. When you can prioritize your sleep as the most important thing that you do on your agenda every single day, every other aspect of your life is going to feel better. Life is going to be a lot more manageable. It's not going to be a pain in the ass to have to get through things. You're not going to be dealing with as much emotional roller coaster or energy roller coasters throughout the day, and just everything else in life is way better when you can just prioritize your sleep and you can be consistent with it. That is something that I've always struggled with my entire life, which is getting to bed on the same time, waking up the same time, and doing things that are going to be more conducive of a good night's of sleep, which is not eating too close to bedtime, not drinking too much water before bedtime, not looking at my phone before bed, just little minor things here and there that we take for granted that build up, and they have this icing on the cake effect. So I would definitely say that was one regret that I have, which is not having a consistent bedtime and just a consistent night and morning routine that would be more conducive of me recovering better and also in turn losing more fat. Second minor regret that I have is not having a fitness wearable like I do now that could track my calories burned throughout the day, see how many steps that I'm taking every single day, how I'm recovering, how I'm sleeping. It's very minor things. Is it necessary? No, because I just got this now and I still had a successful cut. But would it have made it easier? Oh, for sure. It would have been nice to know all those little data points because, for example, how are you supposed to get a faster mile time if you don't have a stopwatch, if you don't have some form of measuring device? You're just guessing. You have no idea. How are you supposed to see if you're losing weight on your cut or if you're plateauing if you don't have a weight scale in the bathroom? It's like, it's little things here and there that you don't need, but does it make it easier? Oh, for sure. It makes it way easier. So definitely recommend getting some form of data tracking device because it's going to make your cut way more efficient. So starting off on a good note, we're going to talk about the pros, the positives of cutting, and for cutting for an extended period of time. What does that look like? First thing is you're just going to have more energy throughout the day. That's at least with my experience. Some people, they may feel that they have less energy and they have to rely on caffeine all the time. I had some of that a little bit, but I definitely had more energy because I think I was just moving more. And a body in motion is going to stay in motion compared to a body that isn't in motion is going to stay tired, kind of like a cat. If you behave like a cat where you just eat and sleep and lay down all the time and just relax, well, most likely you're going to be tired and you're going to want to be napping. You're going to want to be just sleeping all the time. But if you continually are moving every 15 to 30 minutes, you're getting your steps in, you're doing some form of dedicated cardio, you're just doing shit, like you're just going to have more stable energy levels throughout the day. And that's something that I've always struggled with when I was a little bit heavier. I always noticed that I was just more tired and fatigued, but now that I was losing all this weight, I've lost 50 extra pounds. That's like wearing a rucking backpack on you. You just feel more nimble, lighter, and you just have more energy throughout the day. The next pro is probably the most sought after thing that you're doing when you are cutting, which is having a better body composition, looking better in the mirror, liking what you see in the mirror, and just being more comfortable in your skin. That's pretty much the whole point of cutting, is just shedding off that excess fat that you have on those other areas that aren't ideal, that aren't contributing to your physique. Next pro is better overall health and better cardiovascular health. You could imagine what having 50 less pounds on your frame is going to do for your body and all the processes and metabolism and everything that goes on in your body. If you don't have 50 extra pounds, most likely of fat, still on your frame. So you have that going for you too. Another pro is the working on yourself side of things, having that self-discipline of being able to go through this hard journey and showing up every single day, no matter what, having that consistency with your food, consistency with doing your cardio, consistency with the sleep, consistency in so many different departments that even just failing in one of them, you're not going to recover as well, or you're not going to lose fat as well. So going through this hard journey. It's definitely rigorous. You definitely have to have persistence with it. And if you can do it successfully, it says a lot about yourself and your character. Now, running through some of the more negative aspects of cutting, these cons, I would say are more surface level, but I have a list right here that I'm going to read off of from. So a lot of times you're just hungry pretty much throughout the entire day. And there's some hacks that you can do, like chewing gum, carbonated water, but that feeling of being hungry still is going to persist with you, definitely as you get more deep into the cut and you're restricting yourself on calories. But a good way of looking at being hungry all the time is, hey, when you're hungry, that's the fat furnaces are churning, the fat workers are throwing the fat deposits in the furnace and it's burning fat, if you want to have more of a positive perspective on that. You're going to miss out on a lot of social events and just social limitations with things where you're going to get invited to go out to eat, your parents are going to want to make food, and a lot of times you're going to have to say no. Unfortunately, you're going to have to say no, but innovation and good things don't come from saying yes all the time. It comes from saying no more of the time. And by you saying no and having that discipline, you're going to be able to reach your goals a lot quicker. If you say no versus saying yes, you're going to have to play catch up all the time. You're just going to have less strength and your workouts aren't going to be as good because you're not going to be carved up. You're not going to have all this food in your body. Your glycogen stores are going to be more depleted than they are full. So it's going to be hard to retain your strength 100%. You should still push yourself in the gym and still do the volume that you did before and try to recover as best as you can, but you can't expect to keep your strength 100%. And your workouts are just not going to be as good because you're not giving your body the calories that it needs in order to be sufficiently working at an optimal level. And being able to have patience. This stuff takes a long time. Being able to get good results. This is not an overnight process. This is not a snap of the fingers and you're going to lose 35 pounds in 1 week. If you want to do it right, you want to keep the muscle in your frame and you want to shed off the body fat in the proper way, it's going to take weeks, it's going to take months, it could take even a year depending on how much fat that you have on your body and how overweight that you are. So you have to be patient with yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Take care of it that way. Look at it over the long haul rather than a day-to-day basis. A potential muscle loss and also stalling on muscle gains for an entire year, I would say that's probably the biggest con for me, is that this entire year, I definitely stalled on making any progress in the gym. When you're cutting, you're just trying to maintain, you're just trying to keep what you have. You're not necessarily trying to put on size unless you're a complete newbie in the gym and you've never lifted before. Doing body recomposition after you've been lifting for a few years is just not very successful. So when you're cutting, especially the way that I did, where at the tail end of things, last month or two, I was eating less than 2,000 calories, doing cardio all the time, you're not putting on any size. Let's just be realistic. I'm a natural guy. So at that point, you're just trying to preserve what you have, and sometimes you even lose some muscle. I imagine I probably lost anywhere between 2 to 5 pounds of muscle on this cut. So that is definitely one of the ones up there that are the most annoying with cutting for this long. Your hormones aren't going to be as dialed in. I imagine for guys, their testosterone probably gets cut by 33% just because you're not giving your body all of the fats, the dietary fats that you normally would if you're eating at maintenance or in a surplus. So it's very important that after you finish your cut, you're going to be getting in those good fats, and try to get in those good fats when you can. Avocado, getting in some butter, healthy red meat fat while you're still cutting and only eating maybe 2,000 calories. It's very important that you're doing that and that you're not slashing your fats to zero. You're going to be doing your body a disservice. It's a fatigue from over the long period of doing it, mentally and physically fatiguing, where it gets very tiring of doing the same exact thing every day. It gets very tiring of working out where you feel like you're just running on fumes. And the fatigue aspect of things, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically, it can definitely be overwhelming. So by having refeed days, which are just days where once a week where you just eat more carbs than you typically would, eat probably 400 to 500 more calories than you would, it's good to be able to maintain your metabolism. But more so, where people don't talk about, is that it's going to relieve that fatiguing feeling and that mentally just burnout feeling as well. Plateaus, you're going to plateau like a mother effer while you're cutting, and that's completely normal, right? It's just your body and metabolism getting adapted and recalibrating to based off of the things that you're providing it with, the building blocks. So what I'm talking about with plateau wise is you're going to be eating at, let's say, 2,300 calories. Well, you're not going to always lose weight for the rest of your cut at 2,300 calories. You're going to plateau for a week or two, and then you're going to have to drop it down to 2,200 or 2,100. And that's just the name of the game, being able to adapt. You have to adapt in life. You're going to have to adapt with cutting. You're going to run into roadblocks. It's completely normal to deal with a situation like that. So those are some of the cons that I came across, while cutting. Most of them are very surface level, and it's just part of the thing that you're going to have to deal with while cutting. But I would definitely say that the pros outweigh the cons when you're doing a cut. Wrapping things up, I've learned a bunch about this entire process with cutting, the whole shebang, everything that's involved with it, and I would love to be able to help more people with the cutting process, and more importantly, what I've learned about myself through this entire journey, how my self-discipline has shined through with this, and being able to just be resilient and have that persistence and do what I have to do every single day for a very long period of time. I'm talking over 10 months, 310 days in a row I've tracked my food, and this process has really highlighted those characteristics and skills in myself that if I didn't try this, I may not have known that about myself. If you've been on the fence about losing weight and this is something that you've wanted to do for a long time, just go for it. Just give it a try. Fully immerse yourself in all of it, and don't be afraid to fail. Use those failures rather as data points and experimental data points on how you can get better and learning lessons on this, because when it's all said and done, you're going to be so proud of yourself that you just did it. The best version of yourself is on the other side of doing all this necessary hard shit that you want to do every single day. And you're going to be so grateful that you gave yourself the benefit of the doubt and that you gave yourself the time to do it in order to be the best version that you could be.